Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of Your Next 50, where we invite you to play big, to tell your stories, and to write your next chapter. Now, that introduction, if you know Samantha Houghton, and I was supposed to ask you if I'm pronouncing your name right before the show, and I'm realizing that I'm doing that now online. But
You wouldn't be the first.
we have a lovely guest. You'll notice my co host, Jenny Mitchell, is not here today because we are doing an episode in the series of On the Other Side of Fear. And if you caught our very first episode with Carolyn Partridge, well, you know what this is about because everything that we desire is on the other side of fear. And if you've been listening to our episodes now for a couple of years, we talk a lot about fear. I talk a lot about fear because that is often what holds us back from what we truly desire. And we've talked about fear of judgment, fear of failing, fear of what other people will say, particularly with my clients who are business women, who are solopreneurs growing their team. And I know our guest today, Samantha, from a course we were taking together,
Mm.
and then started following her online. And Samantha is very charming. Your personality, Samantha, and you're going to introduce yourself in a after this, but she has a way of sharing her story, which is not surprising because she is an author, a ghostwriter, and a book mentor. And so stories are her thing, but she has a lovely way of doing this. And she talked about putting her own story out there and what that was like, what she was like, and where she is now. And I
Mm.
said, she's Samantha, you are a perfect guest for this show. Thank you for
Oh,
being here.
thank you, thank you. And that's lovely of you to say that. Thank you.
Oh,
Oh,
it's so true. We read people, and there are people online that I think we're drawn to. And I'm always drawn to your posts. And you are an
oh,
open book in certain areas, of course.
I
I
am.
feel that, and you know what I feel? I've never
Mm,
met you in person. This is
mm,
the first time I'm actually seeing you
mm,
online, if you're
mm.
watching our YouTube channel. And I feel that I know some of you, right? I feel that I
Oh,
know you.
that's
I know
lovely.
the
Yeah.
story of your son when he comes into town and your book journeys and your different clients and the books they're writing. And I think as a business person, that is gold.
That's really interesting feedback, actually. I've not,
Mm,
I have had a few people say that, but that's really interesting to hear.
yeah.
And that's great. Yeah, because the way I see it is that yeah, so people would think that could be seen as marketing, but for me,
Oh,
I just see it as just showing up as myself and just
you
share.
are.
Yeah, literally. And it's like I've always been the type of person to wear my heart on my sleeve. It's just
Yeah.
who I am.
Yeah.
um, and there's a big part of that in because I really respect and admire other people who do that. If it's done in a kind of like an aligned way with integrity, but it's because that can be gold for other people.
Definitely. Before we move forward, tell us a little bit about yourself, Samantha. Where are you? We can hear you have an accent compared to us in Canada. Where
Yeah,
where are you
yeah.
sitting right now? And tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, so I'm in the UK. I've always lived in the UK, born in a city right in the centre of the UK called Leicester, but not for
Mm.
much longer, as you know. We'll
Ah,
go into
yes, and
that.
we're going to talk about that
Yeah.
later. Yes.
So yeah, I'm single. I'm a single mum. Been a single mum for many years. I was married, but my son, well, he's left home now. So yeah, it's me, myself, and I rattling around my home. But I work mostly online, as you know, and
Yes.
sharing things online. But I love the freedom of that. Um, but so this whole topic of fear, I actually find really exciting. I get
Mm.
quite excited to talk about fear because it's such a powerful emotion and it can
Yes.
really stop us, can't it, with our lives
It's
and
debilitating for some people.
yeah. And just to put a bit of context to this, it used to be very debilitating for
Yeah.
me. I used to be riddled with anxiety of all kinds.
Hmm.
Yeah, which is what led me to writing my book eventually, really. I just felt like I knew I'd had a big transformation, and I knew I'd been through a lot and come through a lot of fear, a lot of darkness. And I had just like, when you've come through that, I think you're one of two people. You either want to just forget it all and get on with your life, or you're the wear your heart on your sleeve. Let's tell everybody, in a way that I want to inspire and help other people. Because it was hearing stories that just kept me going, gave me hope, gave me strength. It got me through. I just think there's a lot of power in someone else's story in there. You can be inspired. And I think even if it stops you from feeling alone, because when you have a lot of fear and anxiety, you can feel very alone. And you quite often cut yourself off as well. So you add on to that loneliness. I know I certainly have throughout my life, not now so much. Have my moments, but so I think it's really to have that some form of connection. And I think once I'd come through a lot of my stuff, to a greater degree, there was nothing that lit me up more than using what I'd come through to help other people. And
Right.
still does. It still does. It's I just feel like it was given for that reason. The strong
Yes.
purpose in there. So
Yes.
it's like, who am I to waste that? I need to use this for other people. And
Yeah.
it's also very empowering for me or for someone else, usually, to do that as well. And it makes a lot of sense of the past and of fear and of, not such great feelings and experiences in your life. It gives purpose to them. And when you have that, you just come from a much more meaningful place. To me, it's everything.
Yeah. And what when you're in the middle of something, you think you are the only one who's
You
ever
do.
experienced this. No one else can be doing, having these feelings.
Yeah.
The pandemic has shown us that, as well, when we talk about anxiety rates going up, and when we look at that person who's actually has experienced similar things, and then they've come out on the other side. Well, that's the inspiration, isn't it? And I think,
It truly
coaches, any type of coaches, when they've gone through that, and then that we want that. So then there's that trust. They build that trust factor, don't they?
That's right. And I think the beauty of sharing your story as well is, as you described, as you first came on the call, it's you kind of, in a business context, you're overcoming that know, like, trust.
Yes.
Like you say, you feel like you already know me partially, but that's because I have been that open book, literally.
Well, it's true. It's true. And people have a fear. We're talking about fearing of, I called this episode fearing of sharing your own story, because I do feel, even though we're a lot online, it is still not everybody, we use that word authentic a lot, but I feel people put a filter, literal filter, but also a metaphoric filter in front of them. And then I don't necessarily always feel that I know somebody.
No.
And I think in business, that's not useful to you, because you're cutting people off. So that doesn't mean we have to share everything. I mean, don't get me wrong. We're not sharing absolutely, but certain aspects of our life, I think, are good to share. Now, I know I was reading the summary of your book, and you do start, I think, as a teenager, talking about being admitted to a psychiatric hospital, and the fear and debilitating anxiety. And then I believe you only wrote your book 5 years ago.
That's right. Yeah.
So not what happened in between, because we don't have all day to chat, but tell us a little bit about that arc. What was going on through that time?
Yeah. So really, my true, what I call my true healing, came in when I was in my sort of mid-30s. So a long journey.
Yes.
Long journey. Partially having like an eating disorder, so like a form of addiction as well. kept a lot of things semi-hidden. It was a coping tool. So,
It is, yes.
And that went on for a long, long time. So I wasn't sort of pulling off the plaster, so to speak, and diving right into what needed to be dived into. That came much later on. But even then, I think when you've pushed things down for so long as well, and trauma, and I had no idea, recognized it as trauma or knew what trauma was.
Well, I don't think we spoke about it, Sam. We're the same age, right?
We are, yeah.
And we didn't talk about that one.
No.
Like it's a thing we talk about a lot now.
Yes.
Which is wonderful because people are getting the help that they need. But I know when we were young, and I know you're in the UK and I'm in Canada, but it's still the same generation.
Yeah.
We didn't talk, so we did stuff it down.
That's right. Yeah, it was. Yeah, you never heard that word.
No.
It was very old school, as in diagnosis, labels. You fit into like a kind of like box for the psychiatric system. If you went that route, which I did. Yeah, I see that all very differently now, but it was really a lot of it was fear-based, and being a highly sensitive person, really sensitive to energy, so picking up on other people's fear, and my environment was a massive, massive factor. That was never really looked at or spoken about, or
well, they knew nothing about that.
They didn't know.
Those were the hippies, Samantha. Those were the, we didn't talk energy back then.
No.
Now it's like my go-to is go see an acupuncturist. They'll help you with your energy. Go see an energy healer. They'll check.
Yes.
Look into your human design.
And
what, but yes, yeah.
So it's like over the years, I guess I created a lot of my own coping tools, which I actually recognize now as some being sort of like things I've heard about NLP. I'm not trained in that, but things I've heard. I've got a very vivid imagination, which if you are in fear, that can be your best friend or your worst friend.
It can, depending how you use it, or depending on the day, I guess. Yes, because a lot of people will just go worst case scenario, right? Well, it's that cup half empty, cup half full. Do you see the worst, or do you see the best? The opportunities.
Yeah, and all the different types of anxious thinking. So, so with that, it's like, but one of the big things I always did was I was always looking, because as you've identified, we often think we're the only one.
Yeah.
So I was always looking for someone like me. So the question I asked myself every day of my life was, what the hell is wrong with me? Because my intuition told me this is not normal to be feeling like this. As a young person, you're not thinking these dark thoughts and feeling like this all the time. I firmly believe that we were here to feel happy and to feel joy. Not, all the time, but predominantly. And I feel like I was always on like this sort of mission to find happiness. But it took me a very, very long time. But I learned a lot along the way. But reading so I was looking for other people. Back then we didn't have the internet. So it was books. Spent hours in libraries reading either books about sort of psychology, things about the mind. From the age of 15, I probably could have took never mind English or maths. I probably could have like studied psychiatry or something, but I was reading all about that, trying to gain an understanding of myself and what was happening and how I could change it. But then also reading other people's stories. I really got into memoirs and self-help books. That really was my life for a long, long time, but hugely inspiring. And then probably about, about 15 years ago, something like that, maybe slightly less, I read a certain series of books that became very, very famous by an author called Dave Pelzer. He'd written about horrific, I think he's American, I think, had written about horrific experiences he's had of abuse as a young boy. But my God, was his story so powerful. And I just read his books, and as harrowing as they were, I saw so much in that. I saw the strength of that man, the resilience, just really, really struck a chord with me. Massive compassion for him. And I just was blown away, really. And I just thought, my God, if someone can get through that and then share that, because he goes around the world talking
Mm-hmm.
or helping people with abuse. I thought, how incredible, and I was blown away. And it was like, that is something I want to do.
Were
It
you
took,
already writing at that time, Samantha?
I've always loved to write. So
Mm.
I've always written. Um, and I did want to be an author when I was younger. I thought it was more novels and things I was into at that time. But it took me another sort of 10 years to write my book. It was a big long journey because, again, yeah, lots of parts of me were hidden.
Mm.
Even though an open book, there was quite a lot of parts hidden. And I was actually a really private person. So my first business I just thought I'd listen to, like, it. Someone said something to me at the early start of my business. It was like, you could have the best product or service in the world, but if no one knows about it, what's the point?
That's
And
right.
social media is just there. There's so much you can do with it. So I decided to embrace it. I got, signed up my accounts, and I actually learned to love it. And it's
Mm.
an absolutely fantastic platform for sharing your story. So that's what I started to do, gently, gently. But then, being in the business world, networking, speaking, I did speaker training, became more and more confident, and actually found I'd got a voice. And you know what? I'm going to share that. I'm going to
Yes.
become my version of Dave Pelzer. And so that's what I did. And I finally got around to writing my book. I gave up my first business. It was very unrelated because I had like this huge calling. It just grew and grew and grew. It was like my intuition really guiding me, and it was like I decided to listen to that. So it's like,
Mm.
if yes, there was fears around it, but it's like the desire became greater.
Isn't
So
that did it? Yes. You have
yeah,
to want it more than the
yeah,
drama. You have to want it,
yeah,
yes, to move
yeah,
past the fear.
and
Mm.
it became this burning desire. And once because I got myself into that state of burning desire, wow, it flooded out of me. 16 days that book was written, 47,000
16
words.
days?
16 days, 2 days
Oh
off in
my
the middle.
gosh. And 2 days up. Good for you.
Yeah, yeah.
But we often think, I mean, that's like, talk about alignment, being in alignment,
Mm,
and that
massive
need,
alignment.
the words just flowing and the easiness of it. Because when I think, I've had several books in my mind for a long time, and they haven't, I just haven't put my mind to it. I
Mm,
guess I haven't gotten to that point where I just feel that burning desire, or
mm,
the fear has been too great. But
mm.
we always think it's going to be years and years and years and years.
No, it really doesn't have
Mhm.
to be. I mean, the program, so this led on to me to doing what I do now and
Yes,
helping other
yeah.
people, because I had people reaching out. I didn't set out to do this with my own book. I just had this burning inspiration. I let everything go, massive surrender. There was a lot of fear because I wasn't earning an income. My son was going off to uni. Lots of change was going on, a bit like where I'm at in my life
Mm.
now. But it's like, but when I look back on my life, and it's in those moments where there's a lot of change going on, that phenomenal growth and amazing things happen. And it's riding that wave. And so just recently, with what's going on, I've thought back to what happened with my book, and I can really liken it to that. I was like, hang on a minute, Sam, you totally surrendered. You had no idea where your new income was coming from.
Yeah.
You were a single mum, you didn't have a partner, you had to keep a roof over your head, you had to keep paying the bills, support my son at uni as well. How was I going to do that? I didn't know, but I just trusted. And I
Mm.
really, really trusted. And incredible things came from that. But had I have ran away and have felt scared of that, who knows where I would
Who
have gone.
knows where you'd be, right? And that's
That's
that
right.
listening to our intuition, so
Yeah.
strong, so strong.
Yeah.
And I love how you mentioned, that reading that series by the author
Mhm.
sparked something in you. Does he
Massively.
know? Is he alive still? Have you
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's alive. He still speaks. He's global speaker. He's written many more books. Incredible chap. Incredible. He's got a podcast.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, amazing. He was a massive inspiration for me.
And this brings me to thinking that we don't know who we are inspiring ourselves, right?
Hmm. That's
So how
right.
many people have now read your book, watch
Mm.
you online?
Yeah.
And yes, it's allowed you to build your business, but it has also probably allowed many people
Mm.
to take action in their own life to
Yes.
overcome whatever they are dealing with.
Yeah. In the early days in the earlier days of putting the book out there, because I don't speak about my own that story
Mhm.
that much anymore. I think because I focus on my business and I'm so far removed from that now, but occasionally I do. But at the time, oh my goodness, yeah, the feedback was incredible. As in, it was so it's the word I'm looking for. It was just
Well, the word healing comes to me. I mean, you
yeah,
say
yeah,
you don't need to
very
talk about
healing.
it anymore because you've healed, you've most likely healed part of you, that person, that young child, that young girl, that young
Yeah,
adult who
humbling.
needed
That's
healing.
the word.
Humbling,
Sorry,
yes.
humbling is the word I'm looking for. Yeah. So it's like humbling. So that the different layers to it. So it's like, yeah, very healing. So there was massive growth from me came from writing my book. But then there's another layer of growth to actually put it out there. And then
Mhm.
there's another layer of growth. Yeah, that's the bit that gets
So
people.
what's the main fear when, like, the fear putting it out there? We're talking fear of sharing your story, but what were you
The
most afraid
visibility
of?
of it. For me, there was a part in my story that I never really told anybody.
Ah.
And when I look at it now, I just think I was just judging myself. And it was like, what was that fuss around? But it's because I'd never told anybody. And I held a lot of my story held deep shame for me.
Mhm.
So my intuition was really guiding me to heal my shame as well. But there was particular shame about this part. So that was a huge fear. It felt very revealing with this shameful story in particular.
Yes.
Not so much the fear about, because a lot of people have the fear what are other people going to say who you're writing about. So I'd made peace with a lot of that. There was the actual writing of the story, like I say, it flooded out, but halfway through, so during those 2 days, I did have like a wobble. And and I spoke to a coach who really helped me just shift my perspective. And it was the part when I was writing about my son. So when my son came into the world, that was a massive moment in time for me to really change myself because
Mhm.
I wanted to be the best mum for him. So even though it was like a really happy part of the story, it really hit home to me how my mum and dad must have felt for their daughter to go into like a psychiatric, all the struggles I had when I was
Mhm.
younger, just really connected me deeply to that. And it really, really upset me. And I was
Mhm.
like, and now I'm going to put my book out. That the coach just helped me to see it differently. So shifted my perspective. I carried on. And I also think, yeah, that was it really. And there was a little bit of me thinking, who's going to want to read this, but not that much. I think because I just created such a buzz of energy within this burning desire, nothing or no one was going to stop me. So
But it's again, you wanted it more than
I
staying
did.
small. And
I
it sounds like
did.
the universe really was guiding you and saying,
It
"You need to
really,
put
really,
this
really
out.
was.
You
It
need that
really,
intuition," isn't it? And
yes. The day
yeah.
the day before the book launch, I did have a bit of a meltdown. I remember ringing my mum and just saying, "What have I done? It's too late now. You've got to go with it." And it was like, again, stepping into faith. But again, it's burning the bridges. It's like if you have
Mhm.
fears and doubts, I am one for really saying, right, let's burn the bridges, take away all your choices. You've got to face it full on. That works for me. That might
Mm.
not for some people. But when I look back at my younger years, I had to, because I didn't have a toolbox,
Right.
like I say, or real support around me. Um, Created some of my own tools with my imagination, but then very much dared myself. That was always my tactic. It was just daring myself.
This is wonderful, Sam, to share this. Thank you so much for being so open about it. I'm assuming, like we talked about, you've inspired a lot of people to write their own books, and I know that's what you help. Your career is helping others tell their stories, and I'm imagining they're going through the same type of fears
Oh my
that you
goodness.
did.
Yes. Yeah, there's quite a lot of shame can be involved for some people. Some more than others. Depends on how much sort of work people have done on themselves and the nature of their story and that kind of thing. But fear of visibility is huge. Huge. I haven't worked with anybody who's not fearful about it, because it can bring in other things like imposter syndrome as well, because it's like, okay, I even work with a global speaker, right? So he's talking about his book, his story rather, day in, day out, stages, you name it. Came to his book and he found, I think he was surprised, it was a very different experience for him, because it was telling a lot more of his story. It was revealing a lot more, and it was there in black and white, in a tangible product. There's something about that. It's in a forever thing. It's a legacy. It's not just a video recording. It's a thing you can hold. And your words are in that book. Your story's in that book. So that was an interesting one for him. And then people either seem to have fear very early on. Things like, am I going to be able to write this? I'm afraid of who I might hurt, or I'm really scared of people judging me. But then always comes in at the end. Always. Right. Yeah. So it's like guiding people through that. And I have recently trained in hypnosis to help people even more with that, because it's a very real thing.
Yeah, these feelings go deep, don't they? Well, congratulations. I saw that you had finished your hypnosis, and that I think all coaches, that's such a wonderful tool to use to help our clients move past, because it's not about just just do it and get over it. We're dealing with, the inner child, these feelings that go so far back that we can't just, like you said, it has taken you years to tell your story and move from that. You are living through something now that you said is even more fearful at times than putting your book out, and you're very open about it on social media, on Facebook, and you want to move to the ocean side.
I do. And just as you said that, I just thought, yes, I am very open about it, but I think that's a coping strategy as well for me. Because it's like, whatever you keep secret, the fear builds, or shame builds, or something, anything builds. And it's like being able to speak openly about it. It just feels a lot more empowering anyway. And then if it's helping other people, amazing. So I've always wanted to live by the sea. Now my son's left home. I've designed my life, my business around my laptop for that freedom.
Yeah.
And so I was like, so why aren't you going anywhere then, Sam? So it's like, let's get the ball in motion. Where do you really want to live? That's where I really want to live. So, and that's been going on for a year. So that's had, like you said, a roller coaster journey, because the nature of the beast, buying a house, selling a house, everything lining up, relying on other people, as we've said at the start. Yeah. It all has to line up. So it's been quite a challenge, and there's been a real challenge this week. So I'm like 2 weeks away from it all, selling my place, exchanging, and the house the apartment I was buying, I just had to pull out literally today.
I know, I saw that today, and I was like, oh, we're getting you with all the feels today, Sam.
Yeah.
We're getting you feeling all the feels, but I said that's this, it's good to share here.
It is, yeah. And it's interesting though, because I just feel like I've really grown in like the last 3 days, because that was a big fear for me, that was going to happen.
Okay.
So maybe in some way I've attracted,
manifested it. Yeah.
Maybe.
Some people say that. Yeah.
Yeah. But also the fact that it's come in and I'm dealing with it, because it would have been very easy not to move, to let it all just go. I would be so mad with that. I'd be so disappointed in myself as well. So I've decided to still sell. And then because I've made that clear decision, the universe has delivered, brought me an option in to be able to rent somewhere, which is, no mean feat, because it's the peak season, holiday season. to move to a holiday place, there's just literally nowhere
Right.
you can rent. So someone stepped in, offered me a place, dead easy. So that's what I'm going with. And whilst that feels scary, and I like to have what I call a very tidy mind. I'm very organized. I like things in place.
Order.
Yes. But I can be very spontaneous as well. So I have the two going on. But I've just decided, no, I'm going to run with it. I'm going to have an adventure. I'll at least have got halfway. I'll be living by the sea. And then I'll be in a really good position to find my place while I'm there.
Yes, exactly. And maybe, I always like to look at it as maybe this is better that it happens this way. Perhaps had you bought that place, you would have uncovered a whole bunch of other things, and that this is just the better way, right? I like to think that, the book by Gabby Bernstein, The Universe Has Got Your Back.
Yeah, it's
And I like to think of it
totally.
that way. Other people might just
Yeah.
say, oh, that's not, but I was like, no, I like to think that
Yeah.
there are better things. If I'm not meant to get this, then there is a better option.
Well,
So,
you've
yeah.
hit the nail on the head there, because that really was why I pulled out, because something was being hidden.
Ah,
We weren't being given information that we needed legally, so I couldn't even really move forward.
mm,
So
no.
it was like something's going on there. So yeah.
And then look how easy the next, option
Mhm.
to rent. I mean, it wasn't exactly what you wanted. It's not a- how you saw things, and that happens all the time, right? We
Yes.
have an idea, this
Yes.
is what I want, this is how it's going to happen.
Yes.
I mean, if you're listening to this, I'm sure you've got an example in your head, whether it be that job or that launch. You're launching a new product and it's going to happen like this, and then all of a sudden it doesn't happen that way.
Yeah.
These are signs. These are just signs too that we might have to move in a different direction or
Hmm.
surrender. You used that word at the
Hmm.
beginning, and I love
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
Surrender to what is being offered.
Yeah, because once you do, you just step into a different energy. A lot of the fear disperses, I find.
Mm,
And once I'd made that decision that, no, this is what I'm doing, I'm going to sell, I'm still going to move. Oh my gosh, I had so much more peace.
yes.
And
Yeah.
a lot of that,
And you're
in
still going to be by the beach, Sam. You're still going to be having the
exactly.
rest of the summer and the fall, which is
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And then the market will change and
Yes.
you'll be on site. So there won't be all of that traveling back and forth.
Hmm. That's
And
right.
you will find I am sure you will find the perfect house. And it reminds me when the house I'm living in now, we had seen it, and I wanted to move. I was pregnant with my third child. I was delivering in a couple of months, and we need a new home. But did we really need it at that time? No. But we saw it. We put an offer, and it was, they negotiated with us, but they were using us to raise the price. And then the other couple, they got the house. And
Oh.
then we came. I said, "Oh, that's too bad." We came to have a picnic here and near the park. It's on the waterfront of the St. Lawrence River. And I was looking at my husband. I was like, "That's too bad we didn't get this house." Well, the next day, and he says, "It's no problem. Let's look at other ones." And we started looking at other ones, being totally open. The next day, we got a call, and the agent says the other couple's financing didn't go through. Do you want the
Yeah.
house? And I was like,
Wow.
"Yes."
No, no,
I
thank you
do.
for
I do want the house still. And but I surrendered to it.
it.
I wasn't upset. I just will move on. We started looking at other places. And then I said, this was
Great
meant to be. And
story.
it's a wonderful house. And then and a beautiful,
Oh,
it's by the water. I love the water.
is
It's
that
not
where
the
you see
beach. It's not the beach. It is a river, but it's beautiful. We have
Yeah. Oh, so,
kilometers of bike paths and families. It's
oh,
just gorgeous. So I
oh,
trust you will find your place.
yeah. Oh, definitely. Definitely. I'm already on the case as well.
Ah, wonderful. Well, it's been so lovely to have you here, Sam. Thank you so
Thank you so
much for
much.
sharing. Your book is called The Invisible Girl.
That's right. Yeah.
And in the show notes, I'm going to put your website there.
Thank you.
And it'll have I believe, all of your social media handles. Do go and follow Sam. She is very charming online, and it's a course in marketing without it being a course in marketing. It is really
Oh, I
being
like
your
that.
true self. It is being and sharing the parts of you that you want to share, and we can see. how your life, from where you started and where you are now, and you are truly creating that life, but it
Mhm.
that you desire, but it does
Mm.
require moving past the fear.
The fear, definitely. Yes.
Mm.
Thank you
Well,
very much.
remember, everyone, everything that you desire is on the other side of fear. So if you're listening this today, what is it that you desire, and what fears do you have to overcome? Like Sam said, she gets help once in a while. I get help when I find I am in that debilitating state and just need an objective eye. If you need help, Jenny Mitchell and I are always here. And we drop episodes every couple of weeks. So thank you for listening. It is always a pleasure. Please share this episode with your friends. If you know someone who is dealing with some kind of issue and just needs some motivation, like Sam said, she's been inspired and now she is humbled that she inspires other people as well. You inspire me, Samantha.
Oh, well, thank you. And vice versa.
Mm. All right. Well, have a wonderful day. And we will catch you next time on the show. Thank you.